Welcome back to RetroListHQ. Today, we're dusting off one of the most legendary consoles of all time, the Xbox 360. But hold on, we're not going to talk about the usual suspects. You already know about Halo, Gears, and Skyrim. So, grab your controller, sit back, and let's explore the top 10 Xbox 360 games you should play in 2025. And hey, if you love rediscovering forgotten games like we do, don't forget to subscribe and join the RetroListHQ family. At first glance, it looked like another modern military shooter. But behind the desert setting, something much darker was hiding. You play as Captain Walker, sent into Dubai after a devastating sandstorm. What starts as a rescue mission quickly spirals into a nightmare. Every firefight feels tense, but it's the choices you make that stay with you. The game constantly forces you to question what heroism really means. Its infamous white phosphorus moment still shocks players to this day. By the time the credits roll, you're left questioning your own morality. Unlike most shooters of its time, Spec Ops wasn't about glory. It was about consequences, regret, and the human cost of war. That's what makes it unforgettable even in 2025. It didn't sell like Call of Duty, but it left a mark those games never did. Playing it now feels like opening an old wound, one you can't quite close, but you can't look away from either. If you missed it back then, now's the time to face it. In 2009, Pandemic Studios released what would become their final swan song, the Saboteur. This game took us to Nazi-occupied Paris, but not in the way you might expect. Instead of going full historical drama, it leaned into pulpy, noir-inspired resistance action. You play as Sean Devlin, an Irish mechanic turned freedom fighter with a knack for sabotage. The city was painted in shades of black and white under occupation, with splashes of color only in liberated zones. It was more than a style choice. It was a visual metaphor for hope versus oppression. Few open-world games experimented with tone and aesthetics quite like this one. You could climb the Eiffel Tower, sneak through alleyways, or blow up Nazi outposts at night. The game rewarded creativity, stealth sabotage, or guns blazing. How you fought back was up to you. Unlike the usual war shooters of its time, the Saboteur captured the grit and glamour of a resistance fighter's life. It mixed Grand Theft Auto style freedom with Assassin's Creed style parkour. Sadly, it was overshadowed by bigger franchises, and Pandemic's closure meant no sequels. Yet, in 2025, it feels like a forgotten gem waiting for rediscovery. Playing it today is like flipping through an alternate history graphic novel that came to life. If you want an open-world game that's daring, stylish, and truly different, the Saboteur is still worth your time. Back in 2011, a game came out that looked more like a moving painting than a traditional action title. That game was Shaddai, Ascension of the Metatron, a surreal journey inspired by the ancient Book of Enoch. You play as Enoch, a scribe tasked with capturing fallen angels who've corrupted humanity. Instead of grim darkness, the game embraced glowing whites, shifting colors, and dreamlike landscapes. One moment you're running across shining crystal plains, the next you're in a neon-lit cyber dream. The combat was simple yet stylish, built around a single weapon you purify and steal from enemies. It wasn't about flashy combos, it was about rhythm, timing, and flow. Every level felt like an experimental art project, constantly changing the rules of what a game should look like. Some stages even turned into 2D side-scrolling platformers without warning, like stepping into another reality. The visuals were ahead of their time, with a style that still feels modern even today in 2025. Unfortunately, its unique mix of biblical lore and abstract presentation scared away mainstream audiences. Critics praised the visuals, but complained about repetition in gameplay. Yet, those who connected with it still consider it one of the most beautiful games on the Xbox 360. It's the kind of game you revisit not for mechanics, but for the feeling it leaves in your mind. In 2025, El Shaddai remains a rare reminder that games can be both art and mythology brought to life. Imagine a grindhouse horror film turned into a video game, dripping with demons, guns, and crude humor. That's Shadows of the Damned, a 2011 cult favorite from the minds of Suda51 and Shinji Mikami. You play as Garcia Hotspur, a motorcycle-riding demon hunter with a foul mouth and a heart of gold. His mission? Descend into the underworld to rescue his girlfriend from the clutches of Fleming, the Lord of Demons. The game mixes over-the-top action with a bizarre sense of humor, never taking itself too seriously. Your main weapon is Johnson, a demon skull that talks, jokes, and transforms into various guns. Yes, your gun literally talks trash while you blow demons apart. The combat feels like Resident Evil 4, but with more chaos and wild design choices. Darkness is a constant threat. You need light sources to survive, or shadows will drain your life. Bosses are grotesque, imaginative, and often ridiculous, leaning into the B-movie aesthetic. Between battles, the game throws in weird puzzles and surreal sequences that keep you guessing. And then there's the soundtrack by Akira Yamaoka, blending eerie tones with rock riffs straight out of a nightmare. It wasn't a commercial hit, but its charm lives on in the hearts of players who love strange, daring games. In today's world of polished blockbusters, Shadows of the Damned feels like a rebellious outsider. If you crave a hellish ride that's equal parts horror, comedy, and grindhouse insanity, this is one Xbox 360 gem you can't forget. After the eerie psychological journey of Alan Wake, Remedy surprised players with something different. American Nightmare isn't a full sequel, but rather a standalone spin-off that dives deeper into Alan's strange battle with darkness. Instead of Bright Falls, this time the setting shifts to a surreal Arizona desert. The open roads, neon-lit motels, and lonely drive-ins give the game a pulpy, Twilight Zone kind of vibe. Alan faces off against his twisted doppelganger, Mr. Scratch, who embodies everything sinister about him. Unlike the original game, the action here is more fast-paced, leaning into combat rather than slow-burn horror. New weapons like the nail gun and machine pistol add variety to Alan's arsenal, but the flashlight mechanic remains at the core. Light is still your best ally against shadowy enemies. The story is fragmented, looping through time in ways that blur reality and fiction. Remedy used this entry to experiment with ideas, while keeping Alan's mythology alive for fans. Even though some dismissed it as a side project, it's essential for understanding the character's larger journey. Looking back today, it feels like a strange bridge between Alan Wake and what would come years later. For players who love Remedy's style of blending narrative with action, American Nightmare is a dark detour worth revisiting. Released in 2012, Binary Domain came from the creators of the Yakuza series, but it flew under the radar. At first glance, it seems like just another third-person shooter, but there's much more beneath the surface. The game is set in a future where humanity struggles with machines that look and act disturbingly human. These hollow children blur the line between man and machine, raising ethical questions along the way. Combat feels weighty, with robots breaking apart piece by piece as you shoot them down. Unlike many shooters of its time, it added squad mechanics. Your choices in dialogue could change how allies responded. Characters would trust you or turn cold, depending on the words you used. It wasn't just about pulling the trigger, it was about building bonds with your team. The voice command system, though clunky at times, made the experience strangely immersive. Story-wise, it tackles themes of identity, loyalty, and what it means to be human. In many ways, it feels like a hidden bridge between Western shooters and Japanese storytelling. If you missed it back then, 2025 is the perfect time to rediscover this overlooked gem. And hey, if you enjoy digging up forgotten games like this, make sure to subscribe to RetroListHQ so you don't miss the next discovery. Imagine walking through the dimly lit streets of a city that never feels entirely safe. Vincent's life is ordinary, until dreams start creeping in that feel too real to ignore. At the same time, Catherine appears, a mysterious woman who turns his world upside down. Choices in love suddenly carry weight, and every decision feels like walking a tightrope. Nights are no longer restful. Puzzles in Vincent's dreams twist reality into something terrifying. Each tower he climbs in these nightmares becomes a reflection of his fears and regrets. Failure is painful, but even success doesn't guarantee safety from the next challenge. Friends offer advice, but their words often clash with the turmoil inside his own heart. The story constantly asks, what does commitment mean? And how far are you willing to go? The game blends dark humor with haunting tension in a way that sticks with you. Sound and visuals aren't just decoration. They amplify every moment of unease. Vincent's journey becomes more than a puzzle. It's a test of morality, desire, and courage. By the end, you're left questioning your own choices long after the screen goes dark. Kim wakes up in a world that has forgotten him. Yet every memory he carries is vivid and sharp. Centuries of life weigh on him. Each memory a story of love, loss, and regret. Some days, those memories feel like a blessing. Other days, they're a heavy burden. His companions bring warmth to a life that otherwise feels unending and lonely. Battles are tense, requiring careful timing and strategy rather than brute force. Magic flows naturally here, subtle but powerful, shaping both combat and story. Every conversation reveals layers of humanity, making you pause and reflect. Villains aren't just obstacles. They force Kim to confront who he is and what he's lost. The world itself is alive, beautiful, and sometimes cruel, mirroring the journey inside him. Music swells at just the right moment, making victories and tragedies resonate. You'll find yourself caring about moments small and large, past and present. Lost Odyssey explores the weight of time and the fragility of memory in a way few games do. By the end, Kim's story leaves a quiet ache and a surprising sense of hope. Back in 2005, Condemned. Criminal Origins arrived as one of the Xbox 360 launch titles. It didn't try to dazzle with bright colors or flashy effects. It aimed straight for atmosphere. You step into the role of Ethan Thomas, an FBI agent pulled deep into the filth of the city. The streets feel claustrophobic, littered with shadows and paranoia around every corner. Enemies aren't monsters or aliens, but desperate people driven by rage and madness. The combat is brutal, raw, and uncomfortably personal. Pipes, boards, anything you can grab. Guns exist, but ammunition is scarce, forcing you to fight up close and feel every impact. Forensics add another layer, turning each crime scene into a puzzle of its own. The game constantly blurs the line between reality and hallucination, leaving you unsettled. Sound plays tricks on you. Footsteps echo, pipes creak, and you're never sure who's watching. It's not just about solving crimes. It's about questioning your own sanity along the way. Condemned built its horror not on jump scares, but on tension that never let go. Even years later, players still talk about it as one of the scariest launch titles ever made. In 2005, Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth, crept onto the Xbox 360, but few noticed. You play as Jack Walters, a detective whose curiosity leads him straight into madness. The town of Innsmouth is quiet, but something about its people feels wrong. Their eyes follow you, their whispers follow you, and soon paranoia sets in. Unlike most shooters, there's no HUD, no comfort, just your own shaky hands and fear. Weapons feel unreliable, and bullets are never enough to silence what's hunting you. Sanity isn't just a theme. It's a mechanic, warping your vision and breaking your resolve. You start questioning whether the horrors you see are real or your mind unraveling. Exploration is slow, tense, and every locked door feels like a blessing and a curse. Sound design does heavy lifting, mutters, splashes, and creaks keep you on edge. Boss fights aren't traditional. They're terrifying encounters where escape feels impossible. By the end, you're left with more dread than victory, which was always the point. If you're enjoying these hidden gems, don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And make sure to check out our sister channel, ContraBrosTeam, where we dig even deeper into forgotten and fascinating games.